So this is going to be an overview of a complete Reiki treatment, the way that you'll be able to administer it after the class, at the end of the class, okay? And Diane is going to be our model. And please come onto the table. So when you are working with a client, make sure that they get onto the table easily in a comfortable way, and be close by to assist if they need your help. Now, tables, most tables can be adjusted height-wise. And if you're ready to buy a table, what I recommend you do is buy a table that has adjustable legs. It doesn't matter whether the frame is metal or wood. What you want is a table that is adjustable, and then set the table so that you can work from the table without hunching over like this. So the table is going to be a little bit higher than what you would normally use for massage. In Reiki, we're not manipulating the body, we're holding positions for a matter of minutes at a time, and it's very important to protect our body and be comfortable as we do the session. If you end up with a table that is a little too low for you, what I suggest you do is to have your client come a little bit closer to you. So I'm going to have Diane slide over toward me a little bit. And this is a little more comfortable for me, okay? So this allows me to move around without having to be hunched over. Okay, some things to keep in mind, okay? In Reiki, we're not doing massage. The client will be fully clothed except for shoes and eyeglasses. If they are wearing anything that can pinch or scratch, ask them to remove it, such as pens in pockets. Remove those. Maybe the watch. If they're wearing a large piece of jewelry that maybe that could scratch them, a bracelet, then they may want to remove those, not because of the energetic properties of the piece, but because of scratching. You want to keep your jewelry as simple as possible for the same reason. You don't want to accidentally scratch your client. And otherwise, and things like wallets and cell phones, remove those. In fact, I recommend that you turn off the cell phone before you begin the Reiki session. You don't want a call to come in the middle of a very relaxing session. That wouldn't be fun, okay? So you can place a light blanket over your client if they so prefer, or not, your choice. Lights should be soft. You don't want a harsh light right over the face. That would not be comfortable. And the first part of scanning would be the first part of the session would be to scan. We're going to skip that for right now because I just want to show you what the session looks like as a whole. And then later, as we go through the class, then we're going to start dividing it into sections, and we'll go through scanning and the first pattern, the second pattern, and so forth, okay? Now, there's two ways that you can work on your client, and one would be completely off the body, having your hands about 6 to 12 inches above the body is just fine. So you never have to make physical contact with your client unless the client prefers it, and you as well. Or you can place your hands very lightly on their body, never touching an intimate area, and always asking for permission first. So what I would recommend that you do before you start the session with your client is show them on your own body where you're going to be placing the hands, and make sure that that's okay with them. If they say yes and they prefer the physical contact, that's fine. If they prefer completely hands off, that's also fine. And I'll show you how to work both ways. I'll teach you both ways, okay? All right, now, while you're doing the Reiki session, you want to keep conversation down to a minimum. Because number one, they can't relax if they're talking or if you're talking to them, and you can't really focus on the energy flow. You can't really pay attention to what's happening energetically if you're busy talking. So all the talking should be done prior to beginning the session. The other thing that I suggest that you always do before you start the session is say to your client, if at any time you feel uncomfortable, you decide that you want to take a break or you want to quit, will you please let me know?
Yes.
Okay, very important that you let your client know, to let you know if they become uncomfortable, if pain develops, if they just want to take a break or stop, to tell you immediately. Okay? And now she's comfortable on the table. One more thing that I want to address with you. Some clients need support under their knees, their head, so have pillows, bolsters available should they need them. Would you like to have a pillow for underneath your head?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
And how about some support under your knees?
I'm all set, thank you.
She's all set. But have those props available should your client need them, okay? Now, we're going to start the session. And one more thing that I want to share with you before we start the session is that you want to stand so that your feet are almost shoulder width apart. You're almost in a horse stance. You can also sit while you do the Reiki session and lower the table if you're going to be sitting, but you want to be grounded. You want to have your feet flat on the floor, bend your knees slightly, and perhaps rest your thighs against the table for support. You want to be nice and stable, okay? And we're going to continue with that alignment as we go through the session. Okay, now I think we're ready, okay? And I'm gonna start right here on the first pattern, the front of the torso. There are two landmarks that we need to find. The first landmark is the end of the breastbone. So to find the end of the breastbone, do this on your own body right now. Find your breastbone and keep working your way down. You're going to feel bone, 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 and then you'll get to a point that you no longer feel the bone. It feels soft. Let me find that on Diane. And it's right here for Diane. That's the xiphoid process. It's the very tip of the breastbone. And that's your first landmark. You want to find the xiphoid process. Notice that men's breastbones are longer than women's. So you need to go down a little bit further when you work on a guy, okay? Now, the second landmark is the line that divides the body into two equal halves lengthwise. It's the mid-sagittal line, mid-sagittal plane. So I'm going to imagine this line running down the body, all the way down to the feet. And I'm going to place my hands so that I am in the upper left abdominal quadrant with my fingertips on that midline. My fifth finger, my pinky, is going to be on the xiphoid process. My fingers are together, my thumbs touch. So I'm making a pad. I'm using my hands to form a pad. Okay? And I want to have a very gentle touch, very light. Pressing doesn't improve the energy flow. In fact, pressing can be very uncomfortable for your clients. Keep your hands very light, feather light if possible. Okay? And as soon as you make contact, or if you decide to work from the aura, that's fine. Work from right here. Okay? You're going to start feeling the energy flow. You may feel tingling or heat or a pulsation, a throbbing. The stronger the perception, the stronger the flow. So it doesn't matter whether you're feeling heat or a pulsation or a throbbing. You're looking for the strength of the perception. The stronger the perception, the stronger the flow. That's how you know that that area needs energy, because there's a strong perception there. If you're not getting much of a perception, that means that that area doesn't need much energy. And what's causing the energy to flow actually is the cells in the body right underneath your hands that are causing the energy to flow. The cells in Diane's body that are directly under my hands are drawing the energy within. And if they need more energy, they'll draw harder and I'll have a stronger perception. Does that make sense? And when you get a stronger perception, all you need to do is stay longer to allow the cells to fill up. They're more empty, so you need to allow more time to fill up. Okay? Later, I'm going to give you a recipe for how long to stay in each position according to what is needed there. And eventually, your hands will actually tell you when to move because you'll feel the increase in energy flow. It's like a sine wave. You'll feel the energy grow, the perception grow, and then the perception will start to drop. And you always move on the drop. And it never quite stops. So it's like a continuous series of sine waves that each wave is just a little bit smaller. And you always move on the trough, on the downside. But that takes a little bit of experience. I'll remind you later. And in the meantime, I'm going to give you a formula that you can follow just watching a clock. And use the clock as a timer. Okay? All right, now, we always start from the client's upper left abdominal quadrant. Even if you are working from the other side of the table, and you may once in a while, it doesn't matter what side of the table you work from. What matters is that you start the Reiki session from the client's upper left abdominal quadrant. So for instance, if I'm working from the other side of the table, which is fine, I'm still going to start from the client's upper left abdominal quadrant. I'll just have the heels of my hands on that midline, and I'll want to make sure, okay, that I am not any higher than the xiphoid process. I don't want to be up in the breast area. That's not position number one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And I don't want to be all the way down below the waistline either. I want to align my hands so that I can feel the xiphoid process, the end of the breastbone, and I don't go any higher than that. Okay, that's my top boundary. Okay, make sense? Okay, good. Okay, thank you. All right, now, let's come back here. When you're ready to move, you're going to move one hand at a time. Start by moving your top hand. Always start with the top hand. The top hand is the hand that is closest to the client's head. That's your top hand, okay? Very nice and easy. Moving up in slow motion so that you don't disturb the energy flow. Move to the next position, which is on the right side, upper right abdominal quadrant. Establish your hand there. Let the energy begin to flow. Wait just a couple of seconds. And then lift and place your other hand. So again, let me show you. We're back to position number one. You're going to move the top hand first. Lift, never drag. Dragging can actually be very uncomfortable, and if you're right over that digestive area, it can feel nauseating. It can be quite uncomfortable. Never drag your hand. Lift slowly. Bring the hand over to the new position. Place and wait until you have energy flow. If you don't feel anything, just give it a couple of seconds, and then lift and place your other hand, just like this. Now you're in position number two. Okay? Is that comfortable, Diane?
Very comfortable.
Okay, good. And it's a good idea to ask your client once in a while, are my hands comfortable? Do I need to be any lighter? Okay, make sure that you're as light as you need to be. Or if I'm working from the energy field, I would keep my hands here. So from the energy field, this is 1 and then 2. Okay? And that's fine. Okay. Let's go to 3. And again, the rule is you move the top hand first. I'm going to make an underpass to begin position number 3. And I'm going to shift my body over so that I'm always aligned with my hands. And then bring the bottom hand down. I'm in 3. Good? Okay. Let's go to 4. 4 is a V-shaped position. All I'm going to do is lift my hands, keep them together as if they were a unit, a single unit. Make a hinge and come down. It's a V-shaped position. And I'm now at the bottom of the abdominal cavity. Number 4. Okay, let's go to 5. 5 is on the hip. I'm going to go one hand at a time to the hip. And I want to stay right on the hip joint. I'm on the hip joint. I'm not in the groin area. I'm way out here on the hip joint. If you can't find the hip, ask your client to lift their knee. Look for the crease. Thank you, Diane. And that's where your hands go. Okay. That's number 5 on the hip joint. And then the last position of the first pattern is for the heart and lungs. Take your top hand, the hand that is attached to the shoulder closest to the client's head, and place it just below their collarbone. And then slip your other hand under, making a little pocket here. Okay? If you're working on a man, just keep your hands together like this. So for a man, hands together over the chest is fine. For a woman, because of her breasts, we're going to make a little pocket, a T position. Good? Okay. Now, whenever you need to leave the table, you're going to remove your hands very slowly. Upwardly motion, just like this. And when you're about 5-6 inches away, you can move naturally. Just move naturally out of the way. If you're ready to return to the table, just go back to where you were. And then drops down slowly. And that will not disturb the energy flow. Now we're ready to move on to the second pattern. And there are a couple ways that you can move. One would be to remove your hands very, very slowly when you're 5 or 6 inches away. Move naturally. I'm going to use a tissue over the eyes when I do the second pattern, just for cleanliness. In case Diane has some makeup on, or maybe I have some cream lotion on my hands and I don't want to get that on her eyes. So I'm going to just fold the tissue and use that for her eyes. But I want to show you another way of moving. So we're right here, okay? And I'm ready to move. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the shoulder. And I'm going to pivot on the shoulder. As long as I remain in contact with the body, energy flows. So this is a very nice way of moving around the table and keeping the flow going. Okay? So here's the tissue. Here's my little bench. You doing okay, Diane?
Fine, thank you.
Good, good. Okay, now I'm going to take the folded tissue and place it against the temple. Either side of the head works just fine. And then take my free hand and place the tissue over the eyes, making sure then the nostrils stay open and she can breathe comfortably. Next, I'm going to cup my hands slightly so that I don't exert any pressure on the eye itself, and place my hands so that my thumbs touch and my fingertips line up with the ends of the nostrils. Okay, this is position number 1. Position number 2 is for the temples. And I want to place my hands so that I'm forward of the external ear and my fingertips line up with the end of the earlobe. My thumb is down. That's number 2. Number 3 is for the back of the head. It's an occipital hold. So what I'll do is I'll use both hands to turn the head to either side just a little bit. It doesn't take much. Take my free hand, come underneath the skull. My fingertips are right over the edge. And with my other hand, I'll bring the head back to center, balance on one hand, and then take my free hand and come underneath the head to form a cup or nest for the back of the head. Don't have a gap. You don't want to have a gap. You want to have your hands nice and tight. Okay? All right. That's number 3. Let's go to 4. 4 is a bridge over the neck. And I don't want to touch the neck directly because it can feel invasive and uncomfortable. So instead, what I want to do is form a bridge right over the neck, and I can brace my hand right against the chin, right here, or the chest. I prefer right against the chin, just so that I can keep my hand steady. If I'm like this, my hand is going to be shaking. But if I have something to brace myself, like the edge of the jaw, very gently, okay, then I'm pretty comfortable. I want you to notice that my hand is flat, parallel to the table, not angled at the jaw. And the reason for that is that Reiki will flow directly underneath your hand. So you have to aim your hand in the direction where you want the Reiki to flow. Otherwise, it won't get there. So contrary to popular belief, Reiki will flow primarily underneath your hands, not where it wants to go. That's something different, okay? So I'm going to anchor one hand and then bring the other hand over and form an overlap. And we'll go through this in more detail later. Okay, so we have 4 standard positions for the second pattern, for the head, neck, and shoulders. But there are many other positions that we'll be adding, positions that address things like blood pressure, stroke, issues with the eyes, issues with the neck, with the shoulders. We'll address all of those later, okay? And I'll teach you the optional positions. Okay, now, we're going to move on to the third pattern, and I am going to gently disconnect from my client, set up her face cradle. This is just for her comfort. If you don't have a face cradle, perhaps you can roll a towel and use that for her to support her forehead or his forehead. That works just fine. Diane is going to turn over, nice and gentle. Come on up. Let me get another tissue here, Diane, so that you have another tissue. And do you need anything underneath your ankles?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Very often, clients, recipients will want something underneath their ankle for support. That is a nice support for the low back if they have low back issues. So keep that in mind. Diane is fine, but have them available if your client needs them. Now, the third pattern goes all the way from the shoulder to the feet. It's very long, and we tend to break it into 3 sections. Shoulder to the waistline, waistline to the end of the torso, and then we have the legs and feet. So let's go back to the shoulder here. And I want to find C7, which is the large vertebra at the top of your shoulder. You may want to find it on yourself. Locate C7. And you want to start just below C7, okay? Now, because we're right on the spine, we want to be very gentle and keep a very light touch. Or work completely off the aura. You can do this session off the aura. I'll teach you on the body, but later when we're practicing, we'll do some practices on the body and some practices off the body, okay? All right. When you start the third pattern, it doesn't matter what side of the body you start from. It only matters in the first pattern, first position. That's the only place it really matters. So we'll just start from this side, and all I'm going to do is zigzag my way down. That's all. Okay, so here's 1 and 2. Then underpass to 3. And 4. And we're at the end of the first section. So let's move on to the second section, which starts with position number 5, just below the waistline. Okay. And then number 6, move the top hand to the center, make a little pocket, slip your other hand in the pocket, okay? And you are at number 6, at the end of the spine. And we call this position T over the tailbone, okay? Okay, so now we have completed the first section and the second section, right? Let's move on to the third section, which includes only 2 positions, the back of the knees, that's number 7. And now we're going to the feet. The last position in the session is for the feet. So here we go. I'm going to the end of the table, and I'll work on the feet. And you want to make this the last position of the Reiki session, because you want to ground your client. They'll be ready to get off the table and continue on with the day. And you want to make sure they're well grounded. And by working on the feet, you're helping to make that connection, helping connect their energy to their own feet so that they feel the energy at the feet, and that helps them stay grounded. So there's one more thing that we need to do. I'm going to remove my hands, and I'm going to seal the energy over Diane's body from head to foot. I'm going to take the energy in her aura, using both hands, and bring the energy down and tuck it into her feet. Then remove my hands again, and repeat the process 3 to 5 times. And what I'm doing is I'm encouraging her energy to flow from head to foot in the correct direction. And I want to do a demonstration with one of the students to show you why this is important. So who wants to volunteer? Okay, Charles, thank you. Come on up. Right over here. Are you right-handed or left-handed? Huh?
Left-handed.
You're left-handed?
Yeah.
Like me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, let me go to this side. Okay, now, If I ask you to resist as I push down on the arm, will that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. On the count of 3, I want you to resist. Don't let me push your arm down, okay?
Yep.
Ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, and resist. Okay, pretty good. Okay, please lower the arm. And now I want you to watch what I'm going to do to you, okay? And you guys are going to watch too, okay? Am I smoothing your energy from head to foot?
No.
Am I smoothing his energy from head to foot? Okay. Okay, let's try it again on the count of 3. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, and I want you to try. And notice that. Can you feel a difference?
Big difference.
Big
That was
difference. Big difference. Do you want me to put you back?
good. Yeah, please.
Okay, let's put him back, okay? All right. So let me bring the energy down. Okay, let's see if you're back on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and resist. And you are back. You are back. Give him a big hand. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let me explain what I did. But never, before I do, never fluff a person up like this. You're going against their energy flow. So what happened is that I reversed your flow. And just to explain, the electromagnetic field around the body is called the aura. We normally call that as the biofield or aura. And it opens up from the crown chakra, that very top of the head. And then it flows around us. It's like we live in this shell of energy that goes all around us. Then it comes back in through our feet. It turns again, connects to the earth chakra, to the earth itself, keeps us connected, but it returns through the soles of the feet, through the foot sub-chakra. We have minor chakras at many places throughout the body, including the soles of the feet. The energy circulates through the interior of the body and comes out again through the crown. And this goes on and on and on and on as long as we're alive. That's the normal polarity that we have. That's the organized polarity that we have. But the polarity can become reversed or disorganized if we are giving a Reiki session and we're moving a lot in somebody else's field. It could be that we accidentally reversed the flow. And if they get off the table with their flow reversed, they may feel dizzy, they may develop a headache, they may feel nauseous for a little bit. If I had done nothing, Charles, within about 15 minutes, your energy would have corrected itself and it would have flowed naturally again. But we don't want to have our clients not feel well and after having a Reiki session with us. So what we always want to do at the end of any session is just bring the energy back the way it should run. So take the energy, and you're working with the electromagnetic field, with the aura right now, and bring it down into the feet. And as you drop it into the feet, retract your hands so that you don't accidentally brush it backwards. So down into the feet, retract your hands, come back, repeat, and it only takes 3 to 5 times for you to do this, and then that ensures that the flow is moving correctly. Good? Okay. All right, so the session is complete now. I'm just going to touch Diane's shoulder gently and let her know that the session is over, and thank her for her time and her trust, and say whenever you're ready to get up, let me help you get up, and we'll do that slowly. And it's a good idea to offer your client some water after the Reiki session. The water will help keep the energy circulating and moving the way it should. Are you ready to get up? Mm-hmm. And what I'd like you to do is just to sit on the edge of the table. You want to turn this way. Hang on to them. because they may not be completely steady. Okay, and then get up slowly. So I'm hanging on to Diane. Okay, ready?
All set.
Okay. And hang on for a little bit. Make sure that they're nice and steady. Good?
All set.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And then we're going to go offer Diane some water. Okay? And thank you.
Thank you.
This is the end of the overview demonstration.